Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. I see some people are here early. Just a little heads up to the audience. Same thing as early this week is happening still. Um, I brought Sonia on backstage and it booted her, instantaneously booted her about 3 times. But I figured I'd set up the messenger approach right off the top. So I have her here on Messenger. But the audience now knows exactly what to expect. Maybe not in exact, but you know what's going to come. So without further ado, she'll not be able to see what you guys are typing, but I will tell her. Please welcome to the show, Sonia. Hello, Sonia. How are you?
Hi. Can everyone see me now?
Yes, they can see you now and they can hear you just fine. I believe, let me make sure. I'll ask the audience if they can hear you. Please let us know if you can hear her fine. Um, if you can, please, so I can adjust any microphone settings or anything like that. Please, if you can, let me know. In the meantime, how has your week been? And you have a weekend off, or your trading continues through the weekend?
um, I just got into this new thing, but I actually have like AI bots that trade for me,
Oh,
so I
see,
don't have to
you ain't
actually do
working.
it.
Yeah, you ain't working. You're lazy. That's all right.
Well,
That's
no,
good.
no, no, no. I got a book. I want to do it myself. So
Oh,
I
okay.
want to execute some myself, but while I'm learning, I figured I'd have that guy doing it for me so I could make money while I was learning. But no,
Multitasking.
I still do work. I work a lot.
Okay.
I
Hey,
work.
I'm not dogging your game. So here's what we're gonna do. All right. As with everything else, um, how do you keep so white? What? What does that mean? You're talking about my smile because it's fake. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to bring myself off the screen. You may not know, but you'll be on the screen by yourself. Give that minute and a half little breakdown, and when you're done, I can tell, and I'll come back on, and we'll continue the interview. Sound like a plan?
Okay, so what are you doing? I'm
I'm
going
leaving the
off.
screen, but you'll be on the screen. You just talk, tell your story like we talked about backstage, give that minute and a half
Okay,
breakdown,
all right.
and then I'll come back on. All right, so go for it.
Okay, my name's Sonia. I grew up in Massachusetts. I think this is gonna be like quick right now. So I was this only child, and I went through a lot of like mental health issues and stuff growing up, and addiction. So I think right now it's just like a quick synopsis, and then you're gonna ask me questions. Um, through it all, I mean, I grew up wealthy, rich, and then decided to live that life when I could have had it all and put myself in horrible situations and was on a path of destruction, and I had like no self-worth. And then I met my daughter's father, got pregnant, and that kind of like changed my life from there. And then I finally just said, I have no control over this. I have to. And that's when I started to get into that process of submission and realizing it's not my way, by my might or my glory. And that's when I really started to find the truth and start being released from some things, which is a process, you know?
Okay, nice, short, sweet, to the point. All right. So first question: um, family life growing up. You were the only child. How was the relationship between you and your parents?
Okay. So my dad was how do I put this? My parents married, they dated and just like married. They both came here from Portugal.
Hmm.
So they really didn't know each other. It was like you date, you have to marry. You can't just like date like they were like Portuguese Catholic. So they married young, and I don't think they ever liked each other. I don't know. My mom said I don't know that they were he always resented her, something strange. So they got married. They had me. My dad was very business minded person. He went into real estate in the 80s. We grew up in a little duplex, and he bought the whole thing, rented both sides, and bought a house. By the time he was 23, he was holding me as a baby, and he was building like a huge house in Rainham that's now worth like $1 million. If you look at the value, it's crazy. And this was in his 20s. He was very driven. He wasn't home a lot. My mom was home with me. But I realized at a young age that all these things didn't buy happiness. My mom was still unhappy, sitting in the closet crying, shutting the door all the time, mental illness. I was like, the people at school, like, you have every, like, and I didn't realize, and I knew from a young age those things weren't what made happiness, because we had it all in our family life. Mom was always depressed. My dad wasn't home, but we had, the summer, how all these different things. But I knew from a young age that that wasn't what only brought happiness. And I'm glad I realized that. So I didn't my whole life thinking that that's what I need to be happy, and always that's the only thing. It's not. So I watched a lot of that. So yeah, but I had a good relationship with them. Back to your question, I was close with she was a good, loving mom. She just dealt with a lot of mental health issues.
But dad was
And my
gone a
dad
lot?
wasn't around.
Yeah, so you never really got to know him?
My dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to know him. He's just a very quiet guy. Like, he's not one to be like, I love you, Sonia, and give me a hug. He's just a very quiet guy, always thinking about business and different things. He wasn't home a lot, but then we had, that's just him. That's just him. But I know he loves me. I talked to him, but we weren't really that close. And then in that side of way, he's just not a mushy person like that. He's always, I don't know, very to the point.
Okay. When you were going to school, and kids would be seemingly jealous of the fact that you had everything, but you, in your mind, didn't have the one thing that you thought was important. How did you handle that dynamic of trying to maintain or did you even try to maintain a outward appearance of having the joy at home as well as having the funds to look like you were happy? Did you ever try balancing those two for friends, or did you just not care whether they thought you were happy or not?
I don't think I got it till later on,
Hmm.
because my parents were very, like, not like flashy with it. They'd say we didn't, like, you know what I mean? But I wanted what they had, because I had all this, and to them they had less, and I saw their parents liked each other, wanted to be around each other. So I kind of, that's what I was chasing, just peace and stability, and that form over that. It's just an image, right? And that's what I've gotten to a point in my life, even like what we were talking about before the show, that image, like the person we were talking about, just an image. It's the other thing that I wanted, just okay, and peace and joy, and people that like to be around each other. um
So you met your baby daddy. Are you guys married now?
no, we actually are not together.
Okay.
We're not
Um,
together.
so did you meet him and connect with him out of desperation for the relationship, or was it at one point genuine love attraction type thing?
So this is how it happened. This is actually completely transparent, that I've never really talked about in an open setting. I was using when I met him.
Hmm.
My dad had paid for me to live in an apartment in Fall River. And was paying for me to live there, and I was going to college. And I was maintaining school, but I was using. I was doing crack cocaine and everything like that. Okay. And um I met him through that, in the process of trying to get that.
He was a
And
user too,
no, he was
just a
dealing it.
peddler. Okay.
Yeah. And I met him one night. I was out looking for it, and we just started talking, and he treated me different, what I was looking for. Not just like, here's the money for that. He was like, are you okay? Like, treated me like a person. At that point in my life, I was becoming a shell of a person. I felt like people only wanted me if it had to do with money or something I could do for them, or drugs. I was so enthralled in that lifestyle that I completely didn't know people. And then I just had one person that treated me like a human, because I was at a low point. Maybe I looked okay because I was still going to class here and there and doing what I needed to do so I could have what I needed. But I was like a shell of a person. Inside, I felt like I wasn't in the real world. I'd see people going to work. Like, I was just a shell. And then I met him one night, and he just kept calling to check up on me. And I had mentioned it was my birthday. He was like, said happy birthday. It was just somebody paying attention to me for me. He didn't want anything. And I think I just fell in love with that, because I hadn't had that in so long, because I was completely enmeshed at that point in that
Hmm.
lifestyle. I wasn't talking to my mom. She had a restraining order on me when I met him. Met him when I was 26. I'd never been pregnant before. And I just was in love with somebody treating me like a person. My dad was off in Portugal just paying for me to have my apartment so I could, be okay while he was gone. And I didn't have any friends. I wasn't talking to anybody in my family, or only people to do with that lifestyle that treated me, that way in that lifestyle. And somebody did it, and that's all it took. All it took. And
So
I just
when did you start using?
so I started using around like 1920. So I was always a good student, graduated school, went off to college. And I was the generation, I don't know if people remember this. I was a generation where it was like the Oxycontin Percocet boom that everyone, all that started. That was my generation. So
Okay.
I wasn't even into weed, any of that. And then all of a sudden, I didn't understand, because I was so naive the way I was brought up, not in the streets, not in the hood, that this was an actual illegal substance, because I saw people getting it. I didn't understand that. And then I did quickly that this wasn't good, even though it was from a doctor. So I had that naive part of it. But about 1920, and then I became heavily addicted to pills. Yeah. And working at a bank, going to college, nobody would have known. And maintained that for a while. And then it just completely went to like the depths of despair. I mean, home, being on the streets, everything.
So you mentioned in passing a restraining order. Back me up to that point of what triggered that whole situation.
So during this time frame that I'm talking about, I'm in and out of jail. Because my mom would stop at nothing. And I can say this about her. Even though we have a hard relationship now, she stopped at nothing to save my life. She wasn't one of those moms that, like, when she found out, she wouldn't stop like sectioning me, which is a thing that they do where you say that somebody, I don't know if you know what Section 35 is. They have it in Massachusetts. It's saying that somebody's not able to take care of themselves because they're drug use, they're a danger to themselves.
Right.
She would keep locking me up, or even having to call the cops and get me arrested to like stop me, because she was going to all these groups. They got to get in the way. They could die. They this, all that. She didn't enable my addiction at all. And I was rebellion from that. I'm like, can't go home because my mom's going to try to section me. Can't do this because she's going to do that. And one day we were in the car and I just snapped. I think it was the bent up anger that I wanted to still live that lifestyle, and she wanted me to do this. And I wasn't ready, and we snapped, and I was trying to get out of the car. I grabbed the steering wheel, we crashed, and we got into an accident, and her wrist got broken, and it was my fault for grabbing the steering wheel, and she put a restraining order on me. It was complete trying to get away from that, because I still wanted to do that, and I felt so controlled by her trying to stop me, but I wasn't there, and it just snapped.
When did that restraining order get lifted?
It was like a year one. And then after a year, we started to talk again. And then right after that year, then that's when my dad got me the place. And that's when I met my kid's father. Like right when the year was up was when all those things started to transpire. And then that's when I started to just be like, I have a reason to live. I have something that I'm having a child. And that's when that whole process started. But yeah, it was like after a year. We didn't speak for a year.
And you speak now, though?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
How old is your child?
She's going to be 5 next month.
Okay. So it's fairly recent that you've been clean.
Right. Yes. I guess you would say that. I mean, I've gone through addiction.
Well, I'm counting 6 years if you count from the time
I've
that you
had episodes in between that time.
right. But I'm talking about the fact that you met your daughter, or is it a daughter you have?
Yes, my daughter.
Yeah, your daughter's dad. I remember it. See that? I have problems remembering things, just so you know. Your daughter's dad, you said, was when you were using. So if she's 5, I'm thinking it's fairly recent, 6 years at least since you've been indulged in it. You've had relapses since. When was the last relapse?
I relapsed. I mean, The last time I got like what I call my complete like real recovery, like living in recovery, like truly, not like, fake, like a dry drunk, you call it, like truly, about 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when I got involved in like the nutrition thing, and I was like, I gotta take this seriously. And I started to get sucked into that. So about 2 years. But in that time, I've had like moments of like drink, like just moments of that. But about 2 years of living a completely different lifestyle, of because me and my kid's father I got out of a traumatic relationship, moved to this little apartment to get away from him. We were not good together and completely started my life over about 2 years ago
Mm-hmm.
with not having cutting off completely anybody in that lifestyle, like no ties, like starting completely from no ties, like, you know what I mean? Fresh. So about 2 years of completely engaging myself in a lifestyle where I don't want to be around anybody, like completely moved everything, gave up a beautiful apartment to kind of just everything to start over. Mhm.
But you've had episodes since that 2 year break of people.
Yes. Yes, I
When
did.
was the
Like
most? So I'm going to go back to the question. When was the most recent?
about about a year ago.
A year ago. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, you are a believer, Christian, I assume.
Yes.
Okay. Um, are your parents or are they still Catholic?
Okay. They're Catholic, but this is the thing about it. I don't even think they know what that means. My dad's never even opened the Bible. So I
No,
think they're Catholic.
most Catholics have not, so that's normal.
He doesn't even know, like I asked him, but he doesn't even really know what Jesus did. Doesn't even know the story. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they don't
When
tell
I
them that
was in the
either.
Catholic, I didn't understand anything either.
Yeah.
But I think they were born into that because they were Portuguese Catholic. They both came here from Portugal. My mom has been going to some Christian churches with me, and she's like actually looking at the real stuff, watching
Okay.
some things. My dad, he's more like, we talked about it. Like he even voted for Biden. Okay, so that's his level of faith.
Gotcha. Um, your daughter being 5, does she have any relationship with her father?
He does. Today we are friends. We support each other. We love each other on that standpoint. We were both sick in the relationship, and it wasn't. I mean, two sickies don't make a welly, okay? Like
Mm-hmm.
I was going through stuff. I had postpartum depression bad. Looking back on it, I realized I would just snap, and I would just throw things across the room. I was moody, depressed. I had postpartum depression really bad. And we just had a crazy relationship with domestic. My daughter even had to go live with my mother for a little while because the relationship got so bad. I left, gave up my apartment, all my furniture. I had a beautiful apartment with cathedral, gave it all up to start over, get away from him. And then I went through the process of forgiving and realizing my part in it too. And we talk. We just got off the phone before I was coming on with you. We talk. He sees her, he comes by here. We support each other on that level. I mean, X, if you're watching this, don't get mad at me for saying this. I'm sure he would want to be with me again, but I don't know. He we've come to a place of healing, and he, has that image like a mother and father should be together in the same household. He wants to see her every day, but that's the point that we're at in it.
Okay.
We're friends. We support each other. We talk.
Um,
Yeah.
do you actively think of what triggered your episodes a year ago?
Yes.
What
Pressure.
was what was it?
Pressure.
Pressure. Um,
Yeah.
do you okay? So extreme or a certain type?
Uh, okay. So that time a year ago, I was very involved in a network marketing business, and I just felt a lot of pressure to be like some image, and I was had a team. I was a lot of things I was doing, and I think it was me that I was getting to the point, because you have to understand, I have like an addict type of way where it's never enough. So I was working, it was never enough, and I think I didn't know when to like it's enough. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
um Never ending. I'm like that. When I get my mind set on something, you don't stop me till I get there. I'm a very driven person. When I get my mind on something, it's like tunnel vision. I had to know when it's okay to just put it down, let it go, be present in the moment. You're not gonna achieve everything overnight. And that's how I am about things I do. I want to do it right now. So that's kind of what it led up to. I just felt overwhelming pressure with things like that in business life, trying to balance it all. And now I've realized, you know what? You're never going to get perfect balance, and it's okay. There's never going
I
to be
got you.
perfect balance with all those things.
Hang on one second. I need to address this. Mr. Lodge, Mark Lodge, if you don't stop spamming names, I'm going to have to remove you from the chat, okay? It's aggravating, first, it's distracting, secondly, and it has zero contribution to the topic at hand. I'm going to politely ask you to please stop spamming the comment section. Please stop. Either contribute, listen, or leave. But the constant spamming and the nonsensical talk about be Black Saturdays and all this, please stop. All I'm asking is to stop. You're a divisive creature in the room at this point. And I need for you to understand that this is not the time nor the place for anything that you're doing right now. I'm trying to be as kind as possible so I don't have to boot you. Okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If it continues, I will boot you, especially if you have no response to what I'm saying. So pressure, you say, is what brought on your last episode. There's a lot of pressure that's going to be coming, especially if you're going to be doing the kind of crypto things that you say you're doing. Do you have any fail safes in place right now for such an episode to stop it from occurring?
Well, I mean, with that, yes, if you're asking that, the extra money that I used to do that with was money I could invest with. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I do. I have a type of program that when I trust it more than me, it holds when it's not good. So you don't go through the dips. It's a system that knows the market better than me. So you don't go through those things. And yeah, that's a lot to take in. So that's why I use more of like systems like that. So I don't go through like the dips. Like when the market's not good, it will hold it and only do it when it's good. It's programmed to be that. That's all it does. So I use like an AI, like an algorithm, like a computer program that does it more for me type of thing right now. But I'm just like, it's not like heavy in it where it's like huge amounts of stuff. And I go on like market calls so I know what's going on and get known ahead of time. But yeah, I went into this and I went in with that same thing. Like, I'm going to tackle this all on right now. And I had to give myself grace and trust the people that know what they're talking about. So I agree because I don't want things like that to happen again.
So the fail safes you put in place are busying things?
Like what do you mean?
Yeah, you put things to distract you from the distraction. So you have distractions that distract you from distractions?
No, like I have it more set up where it was money I was saving to invest in it, like anyway. You know what I mean? So it was something I'd been looking to get into for a long time. So yeah, I don't really I'm kind of in a different place now with where I'm at. I'm kind of relaxed where I don't need to know everything right now. So I'm not really doing like huge risky things. I'm just in the process of learning because I'm in an education thing about it. So I'm okay with not tackling everything at once because, like you said, I don't want to get that pressure. I'm just more easing into things now in my life and not just taking things head on because of what we said, that kind of what happened when I go into anything. It was a lot of things at that time, like family. It was changing my whole life at once. Because when I started my business and grew really big fast, I had just moved, living alone with my daughter, breaking up, giving it everything at once. So now I've like settled into the place that I'm at more, where I am in this independent life. I mean, like it was completely all of it at once. It was everything. I started my life completely over and got into my business at the same time. So, and I didn't expect to go anywhere. And then I went like, so it was a lot. And I'm very hard on myself, very hard. I feel like I never am doing good enough. It's never enough. And I'm trying to be like, you are enough. You are enough. And that's where I'm at now. I have to tell myself that all the time. You are doing enough.
Okay, so all right. So the next couple of questions are going to be a little more invasive. If you don't want to answer, you don't need to, you don't have to. If you feel like answering, answer. You said you were a Christian.
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that there is a certain amount of a certain level of clean you have to be before approaching God?
Oh God. When every time I've approached God, I wasn't clean in any way, mentally,
But
physically.
yeah,
Stuff.
I get it. But do you believe that you have to be a certain
No.
level of clean to approach God?
No, I think your heart has to be pure with wanting to take in what he's going to give you
Okay.
and not keep pushing it away and realize the power wasn't with me. I couldn't
I'm
fix
glad
my
you said
situation.
that because the next couple of
Only
questions will
he
test
can.
that.
I had to be powerless for a minute
I
and
get
realize
that, but you're not at this moment, though, are you?
I'm not what?
Powerless at this moment.
No, because I have him now.
No, I'm talking
Yeah.
about outside of that. I'm talking about outside of that. So I'm going to show you what I
Yes,
see.
I am powerless without God. Yes.
No, no,
Without
no, no.
Jesus.
That's not what I mean. I'll explain it to you in a minute. Hang on. So,
Okay.
certain statements that people make lend great insight into where they want to be, but really where they are, and where they're not. But even though they want to be somewhere else, but where they're not. You said your words were, you have to tell yourself that you are enough, right? Why?
Because there's a lot of pressures in the world and different things.
Hmm.
And I realized those are worldly things. Those are never going to be enough. The things of the world are never going to be enough.
Hmm.
Having jewelry, having this with social media, commercial with a girl with her, that's never going to be enough.
Hmm.
And that's where I'm at with like, okay, those are just worldly things. And I know the chase I saw growing up, like that's never going to be enough.
Hmm.
I just want to be enough that I'm trying to be on God's plan that he has for me every day, not my own.
Do you think that can ever reach a level of enough?
If I'm walking with
No,
God
like
every day,
you. Do you think you could ever reach to a level of enough for God?
no. I mean, I think we never stop growing, so you're never at a point with that. But just being at peace with the process, yeah, I do.
So what
I
is
do.
enough?
I don't know. And you're just okay with what God has. And like things that we've talked about on the phone, like I told you, what if this happens with this? And you even said, you know, if you God has it all under control, just submitting that as long as I'm walking with him, he's gonna take my hand. And
But
it's a
that has
lot.
nothing to do with you, though. But so why do you have to be enough for anything?
Okay, I think I get where you're going. As long as he's enough and I'm
You
walking with
see,
him.
you see how the terminology can really mess with what your goal is, right?
Yeah, because it's nothing to do with me. It's
Right.
him.
Okay. So the second question of that phase is this: how much of your success do you think one is attributed to your relationship with God, not to God, but to your relationship with God, and how much of it helps your relationship with God?
Oh God, all of it has to do with my relationship with him. I don't the way I talk to people. I don't change it because I want them to be about what I'm doing or this and that. I'm very like, no, I stick to that. And I believe if you stick with that path, you don't have to bend to the world for success. I'm not one of those people, like, when people get into a certain position, they'll compromise anything for success. You can see with preachers. I don't ever want to be that. Oh, well, you'll get this deal. I'm just using an example, this deal or this, if you just bend that a little bit. I don't ever want to get to that point. And yes, it might turn down things that come, but turning down that to get that, no.
Okay. So here's a
It
test of
might
the
take longer, but
here's a test of the question. If tomorrow you wake up and all of the investments crash and the stability of the friendship with your daughter's father starts to wane significantly, what do you believe at this moment would be your reaction?
God, Marlon. I would probably be mad. I would probably for a second, but
Now, before you answer, I want you to understand that you can be completely, and I need you to be completely honest with yourself.
I would be mad. I would be
Okay.
like, okay, but I did do this because I did do this. I didn't use anything that I wasn't okay with losing right now.
No,
So
no,
it was
that's not
like,
what, but that wasn't the question. That
but I
was
still
not
would
the
have been
question.
upset.
No, but that wasn't the question. I said everything.
Everything. I lose everything.
Yeah.
Relationships, everything.
Yes.
Not just
What
that.
would you do? Yeah, I don't care what your reserves or what you didn't invest. I'm talking about everything. If it goes, what then?
You know what? I've been in life where I had nothing, homeless, no one talking to me, restraining orders. And you know what kept me going? That I knew that there was a plan somehow. So, I mean, I think we all would be upset. I still have flesh on me, I'm still human, but I know that there's something more beside the things of this world. I know that there's something more
Hmm.
besides all of this, these curtains, this chair, this table, the money, the investments. These are just things to assist us living here, but the real treasures are there. I mean, of course, I'd have my moment of frustration, like, oh, how did this happen? Or what? But I've lost everything so many times and started over. I mean, losing all my clothes because I'd run away from things and complete path of destruction. And I always got back up because I truly believe that God needs all of us for the plan that He has. He needs
Hmm.
our testimony, something. Even though I don't understand all of it, maybe I won't ever until then, but that's
You don't fear relapsing at this point.
I think when you don't fear, you get so confident in that, that's when you can get a little slippy. So I have to stay vigilant with that too, and remember, when you forget those things and you get into a place where you forget where you came from or forget what happens when you get there. So I
Hmm.
try to keep that up front. So no, I do have fear, and I think that's okay to have healthy fear.
Um, so, um, we talked a bit before about a whole bunch of stuff, where we think things are going politically, where we think things are going with the world and life and all this stuff. You just said something that linked all of our conversation and makes it make 100% more sense, a lot more sense now to me. Um, and I can see why this is a part of how you operate. And you could uh, confess or deny the next statement. um, you have taken something that you shouldn't have at all and make it a positive, strengthening ideal in your mind. And that is fear. You have taken the concept of fear to a whole different strategy. Not in a good way, mind you. I'm not saying this is a good thing at all, like in the least bit. But you've taken the concept of fear and you have honed it into this globe that you think is a good thing to have, because if I keep this in front of me, that will keep me from going here, there, that, and I just,
Yeah.
um, and it makes more sense now hearing that and connect a whole bunch of dots for me now. Um, so I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I need you to be frank with yourself about the answer. Okay. Um, you mentioning that you are enough tells me that you have a fear of not being enough. You saying that you could relapse and you have a healthy fear of it means that you have to keep a fear of relapsing in order to not relapse. Are you afraid of losing God?
Sometimes I question, because there's so many different ways people talk about salvation, like confess with your, and then there's some people that have different views about it, and I get so confused sometimes.
Hmm.
But I just believe that God told me, as long as you choose me over the world, who's really in your heart? Is it them or me?
Okay, but that's not the question.
Right. So
That wasn't the question. Okay, so the question again was, are you afraid of losing God?
sometimes,
Okay, why?
because I question myself a lot, if like I just got
Hmm.
baptized like a few months ago in the church. So it's like, am I studying enough? Am I giving enough time to God? Or am I doing this the right way? So I mean, I question myself a lot, I guess, maybe
Okay.
things
Um,
like,
hmm. So,
and even with the things that fear me about the world, like, is he really gonna take care? Remember when I called you one time, like, oh, these things that happen, what am I gonna do? I'm a mom. And then you said, the scripture about, he knows every hair in your head and takes care of all those things you don't think he
mhm,
will with that. And it's like,
okay. So I want to break down a couple of things for you here to see if it'll get you a little bit um, more clarity on some things that you've built a successful life around that premise. You've not built it out of security, you've built it out of fear of losing it. That's a great motivator at times, because if you're afraid of a snake, you'll climb a tree real quick. If there's something chasing you, you'll be so afraid you can run pretty dang fast. I'm a testimony to that one. Okay. Um, so there is a fear that, is innate to people that causes you to do something, but it's a trigger reflex, not a planned reflex. Okay, it's not planned. Um, your current relationship with God seems to be based on the fact that you have a history of going to Him when things are hard. Um, and He's been dependable during the hard things. But there is one thing you have yet to give up to Him, and you don't want to because you think that's your only fail safe. You've given everything that you could think of to Him except for that, because you have to hold on to that because that's what's been in your mind working. Um, I want people to understand, including you, that the next thing I'm going to say is not me analyzing you. I've done this show now for 2 weeks. The one thing I'm realizing that God is doing, and has nothing to do with me. I want people to understand I'm not taking credit for this, because I do not like the feeling after the show. I am drained after shows, like absolutely zapped. Okay, I have to go take naps after shows. But he'll highlight something seemingly inconsequential in someone's speech, and it'll just pop out like a sore thumb sometimes, and it's something that most people are not thinking about at the time. Okay, and this one is one he highlighted for me to tell you. Um, he has not been in charge. He has not been left in charge by you to take care of your relapses. You have refused to give that to him. You have refused to give him the full control over the things that you say you should fear in order to avoid. You have then started to become your own God by thinking fear will keep you as opposed to God keeping you. There is no such thing as a healthy fear. He directly said that he did not give you a spirit of fear. In no way, shape, form, or fashion did he say a little bit of fear will keep you, except he said a fear of me. And it's not even the kind of fear that we think of. It's not this fear of God. You have given a stronghold to something not of God and attributed it to God for some reason. Being afraid of relapse is not avoiding relapse. Because if you were truly handing it over to Him, there would be no fear of relapse. Because you know God has it, but you don't know that God has it. You don't genuinely believe that He has it. You believe that if I keep a reverent fear of drugs, I'll stay away from drugs. The instant something becomes too hard, though, that fear can easily go away to a little bit will help me get past this fear.
Yeah, you're right on. Just to take, like, yeah.
And so what he's asking you to do is to change every aspect of your thinking with regards to fear. Fear cannot be the reason that you don't relapse. He has to be the reason you don't relapse. The way you do that is not by saying, well, I'm not afraid of drugs anymore. And it's not by saying, I'm afraid of God more. Do you believe him when he says that he is God of all?
Yes.
Like, genuinely believe him?
Yeah. Well, now that I'm hesitating, I do, I know that, but maybe there's something that's holding me back because there's so many things. I got saved, and all these things that were going on in the world like happen at the same time, and they scare me. I talk to you about them sometimes, so maybe a lot of fear is going on with me that I'm not realizing so much that I shouldn't be afraid.
Do you think he can remove 100% of your addiction?
I want to believe that.
So you don't yet. Is he God?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
sure?
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure
Can
about
he
that.
100% remove your addiction?
Yes, if I let him. I
No, that's
actually,
not, no, that's not the question at all. You see that caveat that we put there? It'll keep us perpetually away from believing that he is all. Is he capable of removing 100% of your addiction? All by himself, no help from you. Can he do it?
yes.
Why have you not accepted that? Why do you think you have to have a hand in it?
because I feel like I have to contribute something for it to work. Like faith without works,
Did
I
he
have
did
to
he ever
hold up.
ask you that? Did his salvation depend on your work?
No,
Oh. Now, does work produce faith or faith produce work?
faith produces work.
So why would you have to work for faith? You see, you have it backwards. Is his salvation, does it take care of everything, all iniquity, all it takes you from one life to another altogether? Does it do that?
Yes.
Once you've entered it, do you have to worry about the old self? Notice the word I use. Do you have to worry about your old self?
I know, but I don't know if I'm at that point yet.
But you said you have a great relationship with him.
Well, maybe I haven't fully just let go of my human things and give it all to him. I'm still holding on to some things that I don't know.
Um, Not just some. I think nearly everything. A true sign of it is the busying of oneself. And I don't mean just doing day-to-day activity. I mean busying. You find yourself just getting busy to not have a whole lot of downtime. And when I say downtime, I don't mean the bots are taking care of something. I mean actual downtime. Because in that downtime, you can address the fear. You know when it's a really quiet room and you could almost hear like a high pitch because of how quiet it is in the room. You ever been in a room that quiet or been in an environment where it's so stinking quiet, it's loud?
Hmm.
I don't think you've ever fully allowed yourself to get there with God.
You're probably right.
I think you've just kept this, okay, I have to be doing something. If he saves me, but I have to be doing, to keep that self, I have to be doing, I mean, he can keep me from relapsing, but I have to be, when he called you to rest, he meant rest. Just nothing else, not think about what you're going to do after you rest, not think about what you were doing before you rest, not think anything during you just rest. This innate fear that you have of going back to an old self, um, it means you have yet to turn your back on that old self because you can still see it. And if you're walking away from your old self, there's no way you should be looking back like Lot's wife at your old self
Wow.
to fear it.
That was deep. Yeah. Wow.
He's destroying that place. He destroyed it, blew it up. It's gone. Right? Don't look back at it. You're walking forward now. Do not look back. But you keep looking back. You keep fearing that somehow it's going to creep up on you, or it's going to come back, or if I just make sure that it's not right there. If you keep looking back, it's going to be right there because it's expecting you to look back every 5 minutes. Giving that fear. And that applies to everything: fear of your daughter's future, your future, work, addiction, relationship with mom, relationship with dad, fear in general will never give you true freedom because you don't really know what it looks like. You have lived your entire life since leaving home in the pursuit of doing something, whether that be getting high or not being high. It's always in the doing of something. Um, he doesn't want you to do that. He doesn't need you to do. You're not leaving him room for him to do. Him to do. He can avoid all the mistakes that you can possibly think of making. He can 100% remove that addiction. That only happens not by saying, "Oh, I give you the addiction," is by knowing who he is, right? I know he can get rid of this addiction. Then it's done. It's right there, it's done. Like it's instantaneously done. But when we hold on to the fact that, and we say, and verbally, even mentally say, he can get rid. If I only do, he can get, you're limiting him. You are 100% limiting the God of the universe in your life by your doing, but at the same time keeping fear. If you were that good, you wouldn't be afraid. If you were that good at doing enough, you would never be afraid of something because you could just not do it. But you know you
Right.
can't do it. But you still refuse to give it up to the one person that can do it by not doing it. Your next steps coming up here in your next few I think days are going to be absolutely consequential. Um, if you say you believe God is who he says he is, if you say God is in charge of all, if you say God is all, through all, you can't then in the next second take all that away and say, only if I. Then he's not God at all to you. He's a crutch. He's a failsafe. He's been this, oh, now I've fallen all the way to the bottom. Now I can call on God fully because now I'm at empty. Then stay empty. Stay empty. If that's where you get to have to call on him fully and rely on him fully to get you out, then stay there. Stay there until your trust in him is complete. But you've made it out. He's helped you out. And then when you think you've gotten back on your feet, you say, I got it now. Thank you. You can take the training wheels off now, God. I got the rest of this. Thank you. All right. And you walk along and you have him, but you're like, okay, God is there. Whenever I fall back again, he's there. Then you fall. Oh, now I need you again. And then you're like, okay, thank you. You got me up. I got this. I got it. Don't worry. I got it. That's not how he wants you to live.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not 100% dependent on him, you will always give yourself grace for something stupid to take place.
Right.
I'm not saying that you're stupid.
No,
I want people.
everything makes so much sense. Everything.
I don't want you living in fear. I don't want anybody living in fear about anything. And that's why I told you on the phone, I really don't keep track or care about it simply because of this. If I genuinely know the end result from the beginning, which I do, I know who wins, none of this stuff that's happening should concern me to the point of fear. If anything, it keeps me in anticipation of, man, how's he going to pull this? How is he going to do this one? I can't wait to see what he does with this one. That's the place I'm at. It's not where I want everybody to be. I'm not saying I'm like the guru of all. I know God to the point where I know that if something is looking scary, it's not scary because there is somebody bigger than all of that. I genuinely believe
Amen.
that God is bigger than big, big. You ever watch VeggieTales?
No, not.
Okay.
I know what it is. I
There's a
haven't watched.
song. There's a song that's on there's called "God is Bigger Than the Boogeyman." It's a kid's thing, but it's hilarious because the kid was afraid of something under his bed, and the song is "God is bigger than the boogeyman. He's bigger than Godzilla or the monsters on TV."
I'm gonna have to give that to my daughter.
It's pretty good, but that's the old VeggieTales. Don't give her the new VeggieTales. The new VeggieTales is woke. Don't show her that.
Oh,
But
okay.
but the old ones had a very good message for children, telling them about the strength of their God, how much He is, and why you shouldn't doubt who He is. You are in a very precarious situation right now, spiritually. I say that because you have placed something above God and you have to take it off of that pedestal,
Mm.
and give God his rightful place. Um, and I know so what you said, not to do anything. The doing is a turn. You have to turn. Okay? You have to turn. But not a false turn where you say, yeah, I gave you everything. But then you have like 15 things in your palm of your hand that you're not handing over, and you're like, I don't want to give that up. That's mine. It tells me that you never even turned to begin with. A true turning, once you turn to light, it's like I consider it. You okay? So you have a face full of darkness, right?
Hmm.
If you fully turn to God, you get enveloped in light. If I don't fully turn, I still have a bunch of stuff that I'm keeping in shadow. He doesn't want you to partially turn. He needs you to fully gaze, put your eyes upon Him. And the things of this world will grow strangely dim. It'll just go away. You won't even think about looking back because you're so fixated on who He is. But your fear has kept you so stagnated in a cycle of destruction, I call it, that you have now replaced the idea of true freedom that with a little bit of shackling is okay because it keeps me grounded. A little chain to tie me down is okay because it keeps me grounded. You've turned something horrible into something that you depend on. He doesn't want that for you. He never has wanted that for you. There is no such thing as a healthy fear of worldly things. I don't know what you're going to do with that information. I don't know. Um, I just know this, though. When we take things that He has already defeated and hold Him in higher regard than His strength, we do not love God. We use Him. He's a tool. He's only implemented when we're in a bind, when we're stuck. All right, fine, I guess I can't do it on my own. Now I need you. Then we get confident again, and I can do this part. I don't need Him for that. Or I don't need Him for that part. I don't need Him for that part. And you break your leg. Oh, now I need you. That's not God. That's your version of God. Either He is everything, through everything, or He's not it at all, anything. That's your call, though. That is entirely up to you to see Him that way. Um, conspiracy theories, global events, COVID, methadone, oxy, crack, cocaine, all of them, He's got beat already. He doesn't have a fear of those things. And fear doesn't keep Him from going to destroy those things. It keeps you, though. It keeps you. I would suggest that you turn them over. Don't be afraid of them because God's not afraid of them. Do you believe He can 100% remove those things from your life?
I do. And
Or I
I
should
need to.
say, sorry, I should say, do you know that He can 100% take those things away from your life?
Yes. And maybe there's something in me that doesn't want to let go of something. And that's why I'm not letting it. I have a lot to think about. You've had me look at things a lot differently, especially that thing that you said about Lot's wife and looking back. And I do look back on what if this, and it's like, and it drains me sometimes.
It will.
A lot of things.
It
And I
will
don't want
drain you. It will definitely drain you. I've been through that too many times to count. Um, way too many times to count. And it has yet to succeed in any way, form, or fashion for me. It has never given me anything good, just more gray hairs. And
to.
as much as people say it looks good on you, I don't like the gray hairs. Okay, if I could just limit the amount I have, I'll be happy. Um, I want to leave you with this last bit of information, though. This last statement. Your daughter is looking to you to get it right. Your daughter is looking to you for that example of a true relationship with God. And if you ever needed a motivational factor outside of the fact that you need God, that would be one. Because he asks you to raise your children up. And the only way you can do that is by full surrender. Just something to consider, that your child is looking at you and she's going to want to have the same thing you have. And that goes for everything. It'll go for everything. I'm glad that you've made it this far, though. I really am. Because it's a success story, regardless of how you look at it. But it can be a redemption story if you would let it all go. You're on your way to a redemption story. It's a success story right now. But
Thank you.
your redemption is coming. I want to thank you for sharing it. I know there are lots of people in the chat that have said, I've been down that road or I've had that problem. And I know a lot more people have suffered with addiction than care to admit it. And that could be from
Right.
heavy drugs to painkillers. And so,
Well, I think this was part of me getting there because I don't talk about it a lot, especially like I said, these are things I don't even say. So maybe it was something I needed to do.
like I told you, the kicking out the screen thing is always an indicator to me that you're going to touch on something that the person hadn't thought about before. And I think I
I
said that to
don't.
you.
I
Yeah,
just try. Oh, forget it. Just behind.
yeah,
You have to go through the process of accepting this to get to where it's behind you. And guilt, shame. I have to just let it go.
indeed. Indeed. So I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing.
You.
We will catch up again off screen, but after, like I said, this is usually the zapper part for me. So for people out there in the audience, thank you for listening, for tuning in, and please share if you know someone struggling with substance abuse and addiction. This would be the perfect live to share for them. Get
Thank
this in
you.
front of them. So again, as I always say, wisdom calls to you from the street. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.